We celebrate the feast of Our Lady of Compassion, also known as Our Lady of Sorrows. Let us look at 10 lessons religious can learn from Our Lady of Sorrows based on the 7 sorrows of Mary. The first lesson, acceptance of God's will. When Simeon foretold that a sword would pierce Mary's heart, as we see in Luke 2:34 to 35, she accepted this painful prophecy without hesitation. Religious can learn from Mary's example to surrender their lives fully to God's will, even when it brings suffering or uncertainty. Trust in God's plan, even when it involves sacrifice, leads to spiritual growth and deeper faith. The second lesson that we can learn is compassion for the suffering. The flight into Egypt, as we see in Matthew 2:13 to 15, was a moment of profound hardship as Mary had to protect her child from danger and live in exile. This teaches religious to be compassionate and empathetic toward refugees, the displaced, and those who suffer in similar ways. Like Mary, religious are called to offer support, comfort, and protection to those in need. The third lesson, perseverance in faith amidst loss. Mary's loss at losing Jesus for 3 days, as we see in Luke 2:41 to 50, teaches the importance of perseverance in faith, even when God feels distant. Religious can learn to trust God in moments of spiritual dryness, loss, or confusion, knowing that their faith will ultimately be rewarded with a deeper understanding of God's presence in their lives. The fourth lesson that we can learn is the silent endurance. As Mary encountered Jesus on the road to Calvary, as we see in Luke 23:27 to 31, she endured this wrenching moment silently, showing immense strength and compassion. Religious are called to follow Mary's example by enduring their own crosses with patience, not complaining, but trusting that God is with them in their suffering. Fifth lesson that we can learn, love and forgiveness. Witnessing the crucifixion of her son, as we see in John 19:25 to 30, Mary remained full of love and compassion. Religious can learn the power of love and forgiveness, even in the face of immense injustice or personal pain. Mary's forgiveness reflects the deep love that Christians are called to show, even to those who cause harm. The sixth lesson that we can learn is strength in weakness. When Mary held the lifeless body of her son, as we see in John 19:38, her sorrow was immense, but she remained strong in her faith. Religious can learn that strength does not mean the absence of sorrow, but the ability to continue trusting in God's love and providence, even when everything seems lost. Mary's resilience teaches that faith is the ultimate source of strength. The seventh lesson that we can learn is a model of intercessory prayer. As Mary witnessed the burial of Jesus, as we see in Luke 23:50 to 56, her grief was so deep, yet She continued to trust in God's plan for salvation. Religious can learn the power of intercessory prayer, offering their prayers for the needs of others with the same faith and hope that Mary had. They are called to be intercessors, bringing the world's sorrows to God. Eighth lesson that we can learn is hope in the resurrection. Mary's suffering during the crucifixion, the reception of Jesus' body, and the burial, as seen in the fifth to seventh sorrows, all point toward the hope of the resurrection. Religious can learn that even in the darkest times, they must hold on to the hope that sorrow will eventually give way to joy. Mary's faith in God's promise of salvation teaches that resurrection follows every moment of suffering. Ninth lesson that we can learn is solidarity with the marginalized. Especially the flight into Egypt and witnessing her son's death on the cross. Mary shared in the struggles of the marginalized and the suffering. Religious called to stand in solidarity with the poor, the oppressed, and the outcasts. Mary's life exemplifies a deep connection to those who suffer, encouraging religious to act as advocates for justice and compassion in the world. And the 10th lesson that we can learn is the power of a mother's love. The power of a mother's love. Throughout all seven sorrows, Mary's love for Jesus and for humanity never faltered. Religious are reminded that their vocation is rooted in a love that endures suffering for the sake of others. Like Mary, they are called to live out their motherly and spiritual love in ways that reflect God's endless mercy and care for his people. To conclude, by meditating on the seven sorrows of Mary, religious can draw strength, compassion, resilience, seeing in Mary a model of faithful discipleship